Hey everybody, welcome to Yoga with Michelle. I'm Michelle, and in this video, I'm going to be breaking down a couple of the most common poses in your yoga practice. So upward facing dog, downward facing dog, and extended mountain pose. And you might hear some variations in what these poses are called depending on what kind of yoga you do, who your teacher is, so just keep that in mind. And so I'll be going over some tips on how to get into those poses, how just cues for your body, and then also some common pitfalls, common mistakes that are made in each of those poses. So let's start with downward facing dog. So in downward facing dog, anything where your hands are on the mat, right? It's super common and it can cause a lot of wrist pain and injuries over time to put your weight in the bottom part of your palm or even on the outside edge of your palm, kind of the default, especially when people start getting tired, that happens, right? So you want to focus on gripping the mat with your fingertips, right? The pads of your fingers, and then your knuckles, and this space right here, I call it the ball mound of your pointer finger, but this space right here, super important, press down there. So you want to get a lot of surface onto the mat. So instead of this, right, you want to think, spread your fingers out wide, press down in your whole hands. You'll hear me say that a lot, right? And then also keep in mind that however your body is feeling, these poses might change for you if you're experiencing injuries or soreness. So take them on as they're right for you in each practice. Doesn't have to look the same, doesn't have to feel the same. And they definitely don't have to look like anybody else's. That's the beauty of yoga, it's your practice. So it looks like however it's right for your body. We'll start with down dog. So you can come into it from all fours. Again, set up your hands. Bring your pointer fingers to 12 o'clock, meaning face them forward. Then spread your fingers out wide. Press down in your whole hands, the ball mound of your pointer fingers, your fingertips. Right, grip the mat. Then tuck your toes and lift your hips up towards the ceiling. You're working towards an upside down V with your body. And you might find it feels better sometimes to bring your stance out a little bit longer or even a little bit wider. There's not necessarily a wrong way to do it as long as you're being safe. So press down and forward in your hands. Draw your chest towards your thighs. And a lot of people think that you need to have your heels down on the mat, right? You actually want a little bit of space between your heels and the mat, like room for expansion. Right? I always say it's like room for possibility. You also don't want them up really high. So just let them sink down, like lengthen the backs of your legs. Keep your feet at 12 o'clock, so they're facing forward as well, about hip distance apart. That's maybe 2 fists. Look right at the back of your mat, right at one spot. I look right between my feet. Then draw your shoulder blades together on your back and then down away from your ears instead of having them hunched, right? Or being like this with your shoulders over your wrists. That's kind of a common default. I'm going to actually press your weight back. Create an external rotation in your arms. So the insides of your elbows actually come forward a bit. Lengthen the sides of your body. Pull your belly in. Now lift your tailbone up towards the ceiling. Okay, so you're not overly tucked here. It's actually up like this. And you can bend your knees. I think that's a common misconception, is that you want to have like exactly straight legs. And you actually want ease in your joints. So at least a slight bend, maybe more. Then create a little bit of an internal rotation in your legs. Draw your inner thighs back behind you. Spread your toes. then bring ease. Come down. And keep in mind, it might change from practice to practice, like I said. But that's just kind of like the general idea and way to get into a downward facing dog. From here, we'll take upward facing dog. So to get into an upward facing dog, there's definitely different variations of this pose as well. For your level, for your physical capabilities, right? You might take Cobra instead or Sphinx. So I'll show you that as well. But upward facing dog will come from a high plank. Same thing, pressing down in my whole hands, the ball mound of my pointer finger. I grip the mat with my fingertips. I'll shift my weight forward, lower down, low plank, hover. Then press the tops of your feet down, right? The tops, like the shoelace sides of your feet, might feel a little bit awkward at first, but press that down into the mat. Your knees can come down, that's totally fine, but work towards lifting your knees and thighs up off the mat. Draw your shoulder blades straight back, then create distance between your shoulders and your ears. So you're not hunched like that. That causes actually a lot of pain in my low back, lots of pinching. So you're working to press the mat away from you. Lift the crown of your head up. Right? Sometimes I've been cued before to look up. To me, that can hurt my back. So I look forward. Lift the crown of your head up. Again, we're working on pressing down in this part of your hands, your whole hands, versus up dog. I see it a ton. People just press down in the base of their palm and then the outside towards their pinkies. So also something to keep in mind for upward facing dog is stacking your shoulder right over your wrist. So you don't want your hands too far forward or too far out, right? Too wide. It's like the Goldilocks, just right. So we'll take that again from down dog. Roll out into high plank, lower down, low plank, upward facing dog. Look forward, press the mat away from you. Now don't forget your core. Pull the pit of your belly in and up. Press down, squeeze your thighs together. Now like your pelvic floor, your inner core, your transverse abdominis, all working. Now lift up, downward facing dog. So another variation, like I said, of upward facing dog is Cobra. So to do that, let's come right down onto my belly. You'll plant your hands right by your ribs. Right? Press the tops of your feet down into the mat. You can even come up onto your fingertips if that feels good to you. Right? But draw your shoulder blades back. Lift your chest. Right? So same thing as upward facing dog, just not quite as intense. So you could go here, just lift up, still lengthen your neck and in your spine, or press all the way up to up dog, then to downward facing dog. From there, we'll go over extended mountain pose. Okay, now we'll break down extended mountain pose. So it might look like we're just standing there with our arms up over our heads, but there's actually a ton happening in this pose. So we'll start from the floor and just work our way up to our fingertips. Bring your feet about hip distance apart. Like I said, it's your hip bones, not the outsides of your hips. So think like about this far apart, right? And also, this is unique to you. You could prefer them closer together or a little bit farther apart, depending on your body. But I'll cue hip distance apart. Bring your feet to 12 o'clock. Right, so I naturally maybe stand a little bit like this. Some people bring their big toes in a little bit. So you want like the toe right next to your big toe to be facing 12 o'clock. So equal distance between the backs of your feet and the fronts of your feet, if that makes sense. And I break that down in a lot of detail because it matters for setting yourself up for success for the entire rest of your body. So from there, press down in the center of your heels and the ball mound of your big toe. So when I say the ball mound of your big toe, similar to this right here, what I meant with your pointer finger, right? It's not here on your big toe. It's actually this part here. So hip distance apart, 12 o'clock, press down in the center of each heel and the ball mound of your big toes. Lift your toes off the mat, spread them out. This is so you're not gripping the mat with your toes, right? Then create an internal rotation in your legs. This is gonna fire up your inner core, right? So bring your inner ankles, or sometimes I say your inner thighs, straight back. That creates this happening. Just like that. Now fire up your legs, like hug skin to muscle to bone. Engage every muscle. Then create a neutral pelvis. Okay, so your tendency might be this. Call it like duck butt, Beyonce butt, things like that, party in the back, putting out the vibe, whatever you prefer, right? Not the time for that. Also, the overtuck. Like as awesome as this looks, you guys, it's actually not what we're going for. So neutral pelvis. Tilt your tailbone down slightly so the front of your pelvis comes up. Pull the pit of your belly in and up. Just engaging your whole core. So all the different parts of your core. Your rectus abdominis, your transverse abdominis, your obliques, everything pulls in and up. Then draw your shoulder blades back together on your back. Reach your hands up towards the ceiling. Spread your fingers out wide. So you don't want to have like your whole body working and then like limp noodle hands. So ignite your fingertips. Spread them out wide. Spiral your pinkies in towards each other. And so your biceps go right by your ears. And then oftentimes this sort of thing happens, right? Getting a big stretch really into the pose, and that's awesome, but then you lose your core. So knit your front ribs in towards each other. Keep that, right? Everything you've built from your foundation, your feet, to your core, all the way up to your fingertips. Now, drishti at one spot, your focus, it could be forward, right, at a wall, at one spot, could be up between your hands on the ceiling or the sky, and then breathe. That's it, right there. Please let me know if you have any questions on this. Leave that in the comments. And then I'll be breaking down more poses in more videos, so keep an eye out for those. Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit subscribe and like and share and all those things. See you next time.